Well, we've talked about listening with warmth, right? Which creates this environment of care and compassion. And then last week, I encouraged you to begin listening with empathic skills, which communicates accurate understanding. Well, now we're ready to add a third component, listening with respect. And listening with respect communicates worth. It communicates value to people. This skill suggests that everyone possesses the ability to resolve their own issues without your advice, without your input. There are those who seem to want to solve the problems of other people. So when one is brought to their attention, they rise to the challenge by coming up with advice and recommendations. But the real art of conversation is not only speaking congruently, but to leave things unsaid at the tempting moment. You know, the tempting moment to offer suggestions or to give advice is easily to come by, right? There are plenty of people who will often ask you for your input. But listening with respect will help you avoid, grabbing the bait. Giving your suggestions, even when a person asks for it, is really a way of disrespecting that person. Thinking that they can't solve their own problems without you. And that will encourage what's called a codependent relationship, which really devalues their own creativity in solving issues. The negative side of solving someone else's problem is that they will eventually lose the power to be a part of their own solution process. This Chinese symbol means to listen, and it's made up of a bunch of characters for 10 eyes, ears, the number 1, heart, and undivided attention. And all of these are required in respectful listening. It consists of these components. 10 eyes, to be observant as if you had 10 eyes. Ears, what you use to listen. 1 is listening with individual attention. Heart is listening also with your heart, right? And then undivided attention is to pay attention and to listen as if the other person were king. A king has authority, and it has power to make decisions and to follow through with those decisions. So see, listening with respect is listening as though the person speaking has the authority and has the power to decide what they need to do. Listening with respect believes that everyone you come in contact with has this innate ability to solve his or her own problems. A great statement to make to someone asking for help might be this: I believe in your ability to make a wise decision. How can I support and encourage you in your decisions? Notice the emphasis that I used on the word you and your. In other words, by this statement, you're giving the person full responsibility for their part in their decisions. It's not that someone will not ask you for advice and for answers to their questions and their problems. It's just not a very respectful way to respond to them, to take the bait. See, people are very capable of making their own decisions. Now, they might need some encouragement along the way, right? But listening doesn't judge, listening doesn't know, and listening doesn't argue. Treating others with respect is a basic foundation for establishing positive relationships. You can listen with respect by giving others your undivided attention. You ask them for their ideas, and you really listen to what they have to say without correcting or redirecting or shutting down the conversation. You see, this lets people know that you're genuinely interested in them and you value their opinions. See, it makes people feel respected as worthwhile, as competent, and as valued individuals. Being respectful in conversations also means that we improve our ability to discern problem ownership. There might be times when in the middle of a conversation, a problem comes up and we suddenly notice that there's confusion about who owns the problem, right? Well, here are 4 possibilities that people would be advised to consider before pursuing the solution. Either I own the problem, the other person owns the problem, maybe we both own the problem, or maybe there's no problem, right? So before trying to solve a problem, you might want to consider who owns the problem. So here's an example of somebody owning a problem. A 16-year-old boy has a homework assignment, and it's due. And he's feeling tired because he just got home from a lacrosse practice, and he approaches his dad and asks him to finish his homework. Well, Dad has a project of his own that's due and doesn't have time to complete his son's assignment. And so in this case, who owns the problem? The 16-year-old has the problem, right? Another possibility is that the other person owns the problem, right? So again, the same example. My son wants me to finish his homework. I'm the father, and he uses guilt messages to persuade me, like, Dad, you're so good at this. And besides, you talked me into playing lacrosse after all, right? Now I don't have time to finish the project. Well, this attempt is to give me, the dad, the problem. But again, it's not my problem, it's the other person's problem. Or maybe we own the problem, number 3. And again, the same example. The son has a project, dad has a project, both are busy, both are tired, and both have a problem, right? Or finally, number 4, there's no problem. Example would be in some cases a person might perceive they have a problem when none exists. The son wants his dad to finish his project. Dad could encourage his son to fulfill his obligation, which means dad has no problem, right? Well, discerning problem ownership can be very complicated sometimes, but taking the time to evaluate and to attribute ultimate responsibility will help contribute to respectful interactions. It takes some time now to identify who owns what problem with this next exercise.